Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Coming to America. The follow-up, the sequel to Coming to America is Coming to America, and they're coming to America again. This movie just came out on Amazon Prime, and it was way better than it had any business being. There is a lot going on in this film, which I would say is kind of a downside, but they were able to juggle. It's just a movie where all of the old characters are brought back, plus new characters. You got Eddie Murphy doing a bunch of characters. You got Arsenio Hall doing a bunch of characters again. And of course, the addition of Wesley Snipes is amazing in this film. There's a lot of new people. Tracy Morgan's in this. James Earl Jones comes back to this film. Morgan Freeman's in this film. So many people. But then all of the old characters are back. Not only the old characters, the kind of the different characters that Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall play, like the barbershop crew. But there's also new characters. This movie opens in the same way that the original Coming to America opens. It's the big kind of like you're flying through Zamunda, through the mountains of Zamunda, and then you see this gigantic palace in the middle of this gorgeous landscape. And, you kind of go inside, and everything in this movie, even though it has all of the old stuff, everything's been upgraded. Like the makeup is upgraded in a good way, which, for high def video, of course, you're going to want to make sure that's on point. You got, I believe that the way the palace is shown in this film, it's upgraded, where the first one, you could tell the first one, it's just this giant studio that they, decorated, where this one feels like more of a real kind of a place. All the characters, the story is interesting, how they kind of have to go back to the US, although most of this movie does take place in Zamunda, which is nice because it's basically, he finds out it's his dad is dying. He's going to become king. He's only had daughters. So his three daughters, according to Zamunda rule, it has to be passed down to a male. So they're trying to, one of the things, there's a lot going on. So part of it is him trying to marry off his oldest daughter to the son of Wesley Snipes' character, which is like a rival. He's a leader for like a rival kind of militia army in Africa. But they're like choreographed like a dance troupe, which is funny. Like there's the moments, and even when you go to their like training facility, like they're like doing dancing, and they're playing like a Dance Revolution. Like they're doing kind of, it's like probably the most ridiculous of this movie, even though like tonally I feel like the sequel nails the same tone as the first one. It's just there is so much going on. So to avoid marrying his daughter off, he finds out that he has a bastard child, that during his time in Queens, he ended up hooking up with Leslie Jones and there's a lot of flashbacks to the original movie, which is cool. And there's actually an extended scene from the time when him and Arsenio Hall were in the bar in Queens, and it was going through that montage of different women that they were kind of interviewing from the first movie. It's kind of an extension of that, to where one of the girls that they met at that bar took him back to her place or his place, and they smoked weed, and he ended up having sex and totally forgot about it. So that's kind of how they introduce this male character, this bastard son. So he ends up having to go back to find him. Of course, he finds him right away, but then brings him back along with his mom, who's played by Leslie Jones. All the actors are pretty great in this. All the new the new characters, and then his uncle is played by um, Tracy Morgan, which is hilarious. Tracy Morgan, and like the people, the characters in that family are all hilarious, like comedian, stand-up comics. So it's like it's so interesting to watch this movie because it's like it's hitting on all of the same beats as the first movie, but it's doing it in a different way, and it's pulling it off. I would say. I would say it's like it's different enough to where it doesn't feel like I'm just watching like it's like the same movie again. Like Hangover 2 is basically Hangover 1. It's just set in a different location. Like that's more that didn't pull it off where I believe this one did because it added a lot of new characters, but it still was able to balance and have the old characters pop in for different cameos. Definitely a feel good movie. This movie was it's like so good. I watched them back to back. I rewatched Coming to America, the original, and then directly after that watched this sequel. And it's just a great and it's crazy that they are 30 years apart from each other. Um, but yeah, it's great. His wife, his the female lead from the first movie, gets more to do in this movie, which is nice. There's the whole, I mean, obviously the fish out of water thing is his son and mom living in the palace, and him trying to find his own voice and him going through the same things that uh, Eddie Murphy's character was going through in the first one, which is nice. But then there's also the layer of, hey, this, movie understands how things have changed, and there's a lot of actual commentary with the guys in the barbershop crew, how they're discussing when Eddie Murphy first goes back to the US to get his son. Like there's this scene where they're updating Eddie Murphy's character on like all of the changes that society has gone through, and how like it's also takes place during the time of Obama's presidency, so it's a little bit it's not dealing with the rise of Nazis again. But yeah, I think this movie that's the one thing I think this movie doesn't hit is that it's trying to be woke in that like understanding that his daughter should be the next heir to the kingdom. Um and changing how like Zamunda is still trapped in the past with a lot of their things. Like I think the movie focuses a lot more on the fish out of water story with his son, which his son, I mean, it's an interesting thing, but I don't think like he's kind of a lot of this movie is put on his shoulders, and I think he did fine. The actor that played his son, which was it Jermaine Fowler? Is that right? Yeah, that looks like it's right. Um, like a lot of this movie's placed on his shoulders. He's basically the Eddie Murphy of this movie, except for he's not playing a bunch of characters. But it is kind of focused on him and his experience. Versus, I think if they wanted to be a little bit more on the progressive side, they would have focused on like there's really nothing his daughter does in this movie. You see her training a lot, like fight training a lot, but other than that, you don't really get to know his daughter at all. So like the fact that it's predictable that she's going to be the heir. You can tell, like just like the first one, you can tell where this movie's going. It's not a movie that feels interested in kind of hiding the directions it's going. It's more about the characters and all the cameos and just kind of how they're able to hold everything together, which is pretty miraculous. But I feel the focus should have been more on her, and I think it would have been a better movie. I think it would have been instead of it just being some side thing at the end where it's like, of course she ends up being the next ruler in charge of Zamunda, but it focuses more on him, and I don't feel like he, as an actor. I mean, it was okay. I don't know. Like, it was good. I just felt that it was too much on him. Um, but other than that, like that's kind of my only mild complaint with this movie. Overall, I loved it. I loved how it ended. Oh, the only thing that I really did hate in this movie, which sucks that it was so bad, is the CG animals. They're clearly CG. It's sad because so much of Coming to America is practical effects and doing high quality practical effects. So to see blatant CG animals, one of which is a kind of a main like a big point in this movie where the kid has to prove himself and get the whiskers from a lion. The lion completely fake, like just nothing looked good about any of the fake animals. The way they ran, they didn't feel like they were there. There's a scene where this elephant shows up, and it's like complete like I don't know. It bummed me out to see the CG animals, but everything else was amazing. A lot of product placement too in this movie, which I thought was kind of funny. It seemed like a thing that happened a lot in like the 80s and 90s, like just blatant product placement. And this movie had it, so maybe it's a throwback to that. And then also during the credits, they showed bloopers, which I thought was hilarious to. In addition, and there's like a post-credit scene in this movie, by the way, which is fun as well. I believe it's with the barbershop crew, specifically the Jewish dude played by Eddie Murphy, talking to Baba, who was Arsenio Hall, a new character he played in this. But overall, a movie that, I'm surprised it came together as well as it did. Had a little bit of problems with so much going on. The focus, I think, was a little off, but it delivered on so many things. I loved it so much. Coming to America, check it out now on Amazon Prime. Get yourself a free subscription to Kindle Unlimited when you go through my link, inspireddisorder.com/Kindle. That's unlimited reading and listening on any device. If you're a fan of stories and books and all of the things that can be printed in Word or read aloud, get yourself a free trial of Kindle Unlimited. Go through my link, inspireddisorder.com/Kindle. Sign up now and enjoy your reading. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!